QKYC by Caripay seeks to empower people to participate in the digital economy. As a financial technology, which is abbreviated as FinTech, a financial technology company, QKYC makes the customer onboarding process for financial institutions seamless and streamlines operations across platforms. Well, if that all sounds like gibberish to you, which it does to me, we're going to hear from our two guests to break that down into simple English for Neanderthals like yours truly who are scared of all these online transactions. And so we're joined by Louis Kinley, he's the QKYC founder, and Arvinder Rampasad, who's the QKYC blockchain engineer. Again, blockchain to me is a concrete block tie up with a piece of chain. That's what I know about blockchain. Good morning, gentlemen. Thanks very much for joining us. Louis Kinley, tell us basically what we are talking about here with this particular initiative.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having us this morning and for the great introduction. So really what we're talking about here is taking a lot of the things that we do on paper today that we have to take into the bank. We have to walk things in. We're moving that all online, but we're doing that very securely. And at the end of it, you as an individual can actually keep a copy of that data, that information that you've had to carry in every time you go in somewhere, so that you can reuse that somewhere else and you don't have to keep going through the same process over and over.
So just so that we could understand it, what distinguishes this initiative, QKYC by Caripay, what distinguishes it from other payment platforms?
Well, we're not a payment platform, actually. We started looking at that and we really realized that there are a lot of ways to pay already, and that wasn't our problem to solve.
So just so we can understand, forgive this stupid question basically. So now you understand who you're dealing with essentially. This particular initiative, what is it intended to do for the consumer, Mr. Kinley?
Yeah, for the consumer, it really just makes your life easier and gives you back a significant amount of time out of your day so that all those services and products that you may want to access, but it can take a long time to take a taxi into town to actually go into the branch and sit there for half the day. That we want you to be able to do that from home anytime.
And Arvinder Rampasad, if I could bring you to the discussion at this time, because of course this is your area of specialty, e-identities, digital identities and so on. How safe is it? How secure is it? Because there's always that suspicion that even the most apparently fail-safe system, somebody always leaves a back door, finds a back door into the thief all your information.
Hi, my name is here. That's a great question, actually. That was one of the things that we kind of were designing for in building this platform. It's a major concern of ours. So we use open source technologies. These are technologies that have been vetted, have been developed, and been used extensively around the world. And not to throw out any buzzwords there, but like we do rely on some blockchain technology as well, which involves being able to keep communication secure and being able to encrypt and lock down data. So we bake that into our platform pretty deeply because it is a concern. We're very aware that, I mean, just as recently as this week, there was that story with the Tattile hack, and like there's a lot of threats to personal data. So it's something that we take very seriously and something that we're designing toward, being able to secure lockdown and keep that data secure and in your hands and whoever needs to see it only.
How challenging is that, Mr. Rampasad? Because usually those intent on nefarious activities always seem to be ahead of those trying to protect law-abiding citizens, because primarily you get the sense that the nefarious ones hire those who would have been previously in the system and know how it works inside out. And then in return, you see the legitimate organizations hiring the crooks because they were able to do all the things over many years. How difficult is it, therefore, to stay on top of things from a digital economy point of view?
It is tricky because you're right, it is very much a cat and mouse game with a lot of these things. But I think the approach that we're taking is to start at like first principles, start with the fundamentals. So what we're doing is we're using cryptography. It's a way to lock down communications and lock down data in a way that's not really breakable at the lowest level. So it's what allows us to have this Zoom call securely. It's what the green lock in your browser, for example, when you're shopping on Amazon, that lets you know, okay, I can put in my credit card here and I'm reasonably sure that it's safe. Like those things are encrypted communications, and we make heavy use of that sort of encrypted technology to try to give us an edge on those sorts of things.
And Mr. Kinley, as far as this new opportunity, is it consumer based in the sense that you were talking about the average consumer out there on their laptop, on their tablet or whatever, accessing services, or are you targeting in specific ways segments of the economy, business industry, financial sector and so on? Just give us some more sense of that, please.
Yeah, we primarily serve financial and insurance institutions who they need to provide services to their customers, right? We want to improve their service delivery so that they can reach more customers and just really improve the experience of doing business with them for those that they already have. And it's really through our clients that our product gets out to the end consumer.
And you've been around since 2017 with this particular initiative. What has the experience been like with all that is going on, even now in this period of COVID-19, where more and more people, even if they were reluctant, are being pushed online in all of their transactions?
Yeah, it's been quite a ride. The last few months have been pretty heads down, pretty busy.
And have you been able to cope with that? Have you been able to deal with the challenges of more and more people doing their transactions and coping with that greater level of traffic?
Yeah, well, there've been a lot of late nights, but we're managing, and it's thanks to folks like Avinda and some of the other guys on the team, guys and gals on the team, we've managed to get through it, and we're pushing ahead.
And Arvinder Rampasad, as far as QKYC going forward, is this an opportunity to re-engineer, to rework what appears to be working well so far? No doubt from your point of view that you constantly have to be recognizing that now there's a greater demand for online services and so on, whatever level it may be, and therefore you are tasked, and you and others in this business are tasked with the challenge of ensuring that you are up to speed with all that is required?
That's a great question. I think what's exciting about this is that we're taking the approach where we want to start to make some services and some things digitally native, meaning that they start online, they start digital, and that way it's a lot easier to integrate with systems, to move through systems, to work with the systems. It makes things seamless. It makes things pretty easy to work with, and it makes it fairly future-proof. So you can adapt quickly to anything new that's coming on the pipeline. So that's the approach we're taking, to sort of take that digitally native approach where we start from digital instead of trying to work from what we have existing right now and moving across to digital. So it's kind of a mixed approach there, but it's something we feel confident that it's a decent approach to keep us abreast and ahead of the game.
And if, as you said, Mr. Kinley, the intention is to provide access to quick and easy financial services with enhanced data management systems to empower people to have greater control of their digital identity. It sounds as if I know what I'm talking about. I'm just reading from the script that was provided, so at least I can pretend to be informed. But Mr. Kinley, you see what happens in the Trinidad and Tobago environment. Many people are distrusting of the banking sector. You have your DSS, where people are preferring to keep their money in different areas and so on, which might appear dangerous. But for others, Mr. Kinley, they will say doing these sorts of transactions online is even more risky because there is always that fear, because people are not entirely aware of all that is going on in the background. There will always be that fear at the back of people's minds that one day they could wake up to find out that everything has disappeared. What's your response to that concern, Mr. Kinley?
Yeah, that's a very real concern. And I think that that's really a symptom of really having so much information sitting in one database, right? When it's all been pooled in one place, hackers want to go after that. So the approach that we've taken is actually that we really want the individuals to be able to control and hold their data. And we want to just facilitate using that so that businesses that need to access it can request it and get their consent, so that the consumer actually knows who they've shared their data with, they know what they've shared, and when they don't want that company to have access anymore, they can actually say, I don't want you to have this anymore. So by giving it back out to the individuals, a hacker would have to attack all the individual people to get the information that our system facilitates, rather than just attacking one central database.
So, Mr. Kinley, before time runs out, and before I get a final word from Mr. Rampersad as well, what do people have to do if they want to access this particular service? What's the process like?
It really depends on the institution, but the first way, of course, is just to reach out to us. Go on our website at getqkyc.com, and we have a conversation and understand really what your needs are. We also have really a consumer-facing version of our app coming out in the app stores pretty soon here, and from there, it'll work.
And Mr. Rampersad, your final a bit of advice to the skeptics, to those who will remain perennially untrustful of this environment, simply because you're simply handing over so much authority to people who you never see, will never see, and whether if everything disappears off your screen or returns a couple of days later, you essentially, it's an element of trust in that regard, to an extent where people feel quite a bit uncomfortable. What would you say about that?
I would say, I wouldn't even call them skeptics. I would say those people are wary, and rightfully so. I would say that that's what we're building towards, is being able to produce a system that's robust and trustworthy enough that they're comfortable with it. They're comfortable with the assurances that we make. They're comfortable with how we do things. And they're just generally comfortable with how this piece, like how these things are happening. So I would say those people are actually, they actually make the ecosystem more robust, because they're the ones who hold us to our standards and ensure that we're doing things that can fulfill that that level of security and scrutiny.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for taking the time to be with us this morning. So you can go to the website yourself, www.getqkyc.com, to have all of your questions answered. And if I didn't ask the right questions to get the right answers from our guests, forgive me, because half of these things are way over my head as one of those who still relies on dialing 7 numbers to speak to a human being and so on, rather than doing a lot of things online. But I get in there slowly but surely. But again, thanks very much to Louis Kinley and Arvinder Rampersad for taking the time to give us some more context to this particular platform, which is available, of course, online.